Hello, welcome back to A Story for You. Today we're going to read another Dr. Seuss story, and we're going to have some fun and get going on Christmas. So today we are reading How the Grinch Stole Christmas. This is the actual story. I know there have been a lot of TV things made, but this is the one. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now, please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. There's old grumpy Grinch. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown, as the warm, lighted windows below in their town, for he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his grinchy fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh, the noise. Oh, the noise, 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 noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise, 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 noise. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, 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 feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beast, which is something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. There's the Whos celebrating their Christmas season. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. The more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Beautiful Who Christmas sing. And then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderfully awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat. I'll make a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick. With this hat and coat, I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No. The Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dogs Max. Then he tied some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks and a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, "Giddy up!" And the sled started down toward the homes where the Who's lay a-snoozin' in town. All the windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Who's were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fists. See him? Okay. Then he slid down the chimney. A rather tight pinch, but if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue, where the little Who's stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. And he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Oh, baby girl. Can I have my sleep back, please? Thank you. And now, all the food up the chimney with glee. Now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. Trying to make it flat so you guys can see. Okay. And the Grinch grabbed the tree, and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter. She got up to get out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, That old Grinch was so smart and so slick that he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And this fib fooled the child, and he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Where's the picture? There we go. Oop. There we go. And the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and the one speck of food that was left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. I'll show you the picture of a poor little mouse that doesn't have hardly any food. Baby girl. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze. Then he packed up his sled. He packed it with their presents, their ribbons, the wrappings, the tags and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. $3,000 up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load on the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the Who's, his was his Grinch-ish humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two. Then all the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo-hoo. "That's a noise," grinned the Grinch, "that I simply must hear." So he paused, and the Grinch put a hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Get a good look at the Grinch. Oh, shocked. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the whole page is merry because it's red. And the Grinch, with his Grinchy feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. He puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. Can you see? Wait, there we go. Try to smush it good. What happened then? Well, in Whoville, they say, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. In the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. Because Christmas helps us remember that Jesus came and he lived and he died for us and he rose again, and he wants to know you, and he wants to know you to know that he loves you. And that's what Christmas is for. And I wanted to share that. And I don't care that it's the beginning of November. That's all for our story today. Be sure to let your parents know to like and subscribe. And if you have any comments that you want to talk to me about the story, or questions that you have, or information that you have, you can tell your parents and they can put it in the comments. And then if they set up their phone or their computer, when they subscribe, then they can click on the bell, and that'll tell you every time I put a new video up. I enjoy getting this time with you. Bye-bye.